Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
And welcome to another happy hour edition of rewatching for me, first time watching for Anney of Sex and the City. And yes, we are in season 3, episode 4. If you are drinking or doing whatever, do so responsibly. This is an adult show. I think it is rated TVMA. So if you're new to this and you're like, oh, I'll jump in, just know, probably don't want to listen around children. Because we are not watching the edited version. So this is not from the CW. Does CW still exist?
It does.
Okay, or Bravo. I think it's on Bravo. We are watching, if you have Netflix, not a sponsor, that version, because that's unedited, right? Is it unedited?
It is, but we're not watching it on. I'm not watching it on Netflix.
Oh yeah, me either.
I love this.
I'm just thinking like the access. People are more likely to access it through Netflix than Max.
Yeah,
Title.
We've mentioned that recently, but that has been an interesting thing that has come out of Sex and the City being available on Netflix.
Yes,
is that now a lot of younger people are seeing it for the first time and having some thoughts.
Yes, and speaking of which, so this episode is one of those episodes that I have been warning Anney about because this season is a roller coaster of a season. I think it's fairly offensive. It has not aged well. And I will guarantee, because I feel like it's been a minute since I've seen this episode, but I remember watching it then going, oh, ew, no. And it's kind of one of those things where we are going to, I'm going to spoiler alert, talk about bisexuality. And in it, like, there's some very dated references to bisexuality, and we already know the level of discrimination that happens from both the queer and the heterosexual community when it comes to bisexuality, and it kind of perpetuates that. So go ahead and put that at the top. They try to make funny jokes. It doesn't land, but there are other parts to it that is interesting at the very least. So with all of that, we're going to do our tradition. Now I've given you a big hint, Anney, so...
You have.
You know. First and foremost, can you recap for us what has been happening on season 3?
Yes. So this season, I feel like we've started with most of the team in turmoil. Again, I feel like Samantha's always doing her own thing. But Carrie broke up with Biggs and then saw a wedding advertisement. I said Biggs because that's Star Wars. I'm so sorry. Mr. Big. And then saw a wedding advertisement for him and you always say Bridget, Natasha.
Yes.
And then they've run into each other. So there's been some like drama and hurt around that. Charlotte is once again trying to find a husband, very determined, was talking about finding a political husband or all kinds of things. She's looking. Miranda is trying to be independent, but still has Steve in her life and is trying to find out what she wants with him and with her life and what that means for her independence. And yeah, Samantha's just living the best time.
Samantha is Samantha-ing.
Yes, she is.
As we like to say it. Okay, so for this title, it is Boy, Girl, Boy, Girl. Do you have a clue about what this could be?
I mean, you did
have
give
a
me a
small
pretty
clue.
big clue.
I was going to say, you have a clue.
I have a clue. If you feel, based on what you said, that it's like bisexuality erasure, then I would say it has something to do with either you like boys or you like girls. You don't like either. But where would this come up? At the club? At brunch?
In the club or the brunch.
Because I feel like that I'm not giving any specifics. But I guess that's there's gonna be talk about it's this or that.
Okay. I get you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I forgot. There is a 90s icon. That's 2000s icon, I guess, that's about to appear. 90s, 2000. and she's only in it for a second. I'm excited. I'm gonna see if you. I think you will. If you don't, you have shamed your karaoke self when you see her.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
no,
I'm
I
gonna put that in
can't handle that.
here. The pressure. All right, are you ready to start?
Yes. All right.
Drag kings, the collision of illusion and reality.
You didn't get
Wow.
this part.
Oh,
Drag
no, I did not guess this.
Look at that bulge. It's shocking.
Yeah, I know. Hurry up and look before Giuliani shuts it down.
Giuliani, who probably is about to be disbarred. Ooh.
This is strange watching it now.
Right.
With all this, the
At one point
current.
in time, he was seen as normal.
Mm-hmm.
Not great, but normal.
Also, this is, I hadn't thought about this before, but it's interesting in terms of their jobs,
Yeah.
where you have a friend who's like, come to my art gallery presentation. You've got your
Yeah.
sex writer, you've got your lawyer. Because I feel like a lot of my friends, you come into my job, you're just watching me like talking to a computer, you know?
Yep.
It's not a social outing.
Your social outing is D&D. We know this.
Yes. Yes.
I feel we have dual powers within each of us. Men could be very female, and women could be very male. Gender's an illusion. Sometimes a very beautiful illusion.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get
See, I don't think he's so far off on this conversation.
No, I don't think so either.
Like, I think if we talk, instead of saying illusion and saying it would be construct or spectrum. I feel like that could be that level.
Later, Miranda was shocked to find her apartment had undergone a gender transformation of its own.
Gender transformation.
What are you doing here?
I still got your key going in
So
for
many
the
things.
that time. I ordered this Chinese.
I didn't
Oh
think we were
no,
seeing each other
he
tonight.
put in a TV, it has sports on it.
Yep.
It's a male household now.
With kind of a jersey, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
There was something about him. He was sexy, charming, sexy, coordinated. Nothing about him or our third date was feeling typical.
So, Kerrigan, when was your last serious relationship?
Until then, there it was.
DTR.
The inevitable third
Just kidding.
date question.
Bad question? Want to take another spin around the death rink?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I feel like, yes,
I
if you're
ended
on date
something
3,
while
you
ago.
need to be able to talk about,
2
like,
years of
what you're doing, right?
You know, apparently we weren't Y2K compatible.
Y2K compatible.
What about you?
I need you to note
For
that.
you, there was
I feel like yes,
ironic. Last
you should, especially if you
before
want
her,
it to go
Leslie
anywhere.
couldn't commit, and before Leslie, there was Mark.
Uh-oh. The shock was that he had a relationship with a
Is that a
guy named Mark.
He's a bisexual.
He's a bisexual, she says.
I'm a trisexual. I'll try anything once.
Correct, Sam.
When did
Correct.
this happen?
You do
when
you,
did the
baby.
sexes get all confused?
Somewhere between Gen X and Gen Y.
Yes, this
they
is where I'm
blended
saying
and
it's
made
fairly
XY.
offensive.
You know, I did the date the bisexual guy thing in college, but in the end, they all ended up with men.
Yep.
So did the bisexual women.
Which explains why there are no available men left for us.
Which maybe this is where the beginning of the arguments happen, because I've still heard that today about, like, all of them end up dating men. Like, literally,
Yeah.
all of them specifically saying this.
Hot old fart.
I'm not even sure bisexuality exists. I think it's just a layover on the way to Gay Town.
Isn't
Yep.
that right next to Ricky
Still
Martinville?
here. People
You know,
still
I think it's great.
Yep.
act like
He's
that.
open to all
make jokes
sexual
about that.
experiences. He's evolved.
Sam just speaking the
It's not
truth.
hot, it's greedy. He's double dipping.
You're not marrying the guy. You're
Is he
making out
greedy or
with
does he
him.
have just better
Enjoy it. Don't worry
opportunities?
about the label.
You're right. You're right.
I'm very into labels. Gay, straight. Pick a side.
Well, see,
and stay there.
bisexual is a label.
Hey,
Yeah.
There you go.
It is what it is.
I've got a date with my remote control. Steve's playing basketball. That means at least 3 hours of blissfully uninterrupted alone time.
There's that moment of when you start living or being in that relationship and you're like, I love you, but I
Yeah.
need about 2 days without you.
Just, I thought you were gonna say 2 hours. I love how you went for days. No, definitely. Especially if your place is a little smaller.
Yeah.
You don't have like a different.
Yeah.
You go
like we
meet over
have
there.
different floors and we don't see each other like until he comes down. He's like, hey, pops in for food and goes away.
Yeah.
But then like he works sometimes doing shows and he's gone all day. I'm like, yeah.
Yes.
My
yes.
place.
I get it.
I would love to have you pose for me.
Oh.
As a man?
Yeah, you'd be great.
No.
What a pickup line.
I don't think so.
I want you
Why not?
to dress like a
Well,
man
not, you know,
What, a model?
for me.
no butch.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be surprised, Charlotte. Every woman
The model
has a
line we've
man
heard.
inside of her.
The bottom line we've heard.
Yes. Oh, yes.
No, not me. I'm really bad at math and I can't change a tire to save my life.
She can't change a tire. Oh my gosh. We
And
just
bad
talked
at
about
math.
this.
She's a girl. I can't be a man.
The Mulan
I
song
can't
is
be
playing
butch.
loud. Playing loud in my head, Samantha.
Do I kiss better than Guy?
She is so. This is the episodes where you're like, Carrie is the worst. Why would anyone date her?
I feel like that's something you say when you're like 20 in
Right.
college
Yeah.
and you're drunk and you are just like
Top 2%.
wanting any kind of validation.
Right.
Not
Like
when you're 30 and a sex columnist.
A sex columnist who's been through a relationship that had you questioning whether you're good enough. Like, I guess that like, it may be her trauma, but this is a different level of like, why do you need this much validation? Why does this have to be about you?
Mm-hmm. Especially because if he's into you, what does
Right.
it matter
Right.
if there was a man in the past? Like,
Right. And why does that make you so insecure?
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird that they do like blame it on his youth, essentially.
Yeah, because like you said, it felt very dismissive when he was like, one of them happened to be a guy. I'm not gay.
Yeah.
Because that sounds like, yeah, you were in college and you tried something.
Right. Right.
Which can happen, but is all so often used to erase
Exactly.
bisexual people.
Exactly.
Hey,
What? What's going on?
you're on my side.
I love how she's
My
just
pillow?
sitting up,
Right.
like waiting.
Guest pillow.
Like she's just already annoyed. To be
Okay.
fair, I've had those moments of like, I will push
What?
Yeah.
his pillow over and slowly push him over. I have to do that with Peaches, actually. I have to roll her over because she has gotten me on so far off the bed that if I move, I fall off. So I have to physically roll her over. But even then, I'm not sitting up going, hey!
That pile.
Maybe I
Turn on
should,
the
though.
light.
You
Hi.
have to keep it neater.
Well, maybe if you could spare a drawer or a box or something, I could keep my underwear out of the way.
You want a drawer?
He wants a drawer.
He wants a drawer in her apartment.
Actually, I'd like to move in.
Oh, no.
Most single women dream of this moment. Most single women but Miranda.
I need my space. I feel like I'm being suffocated.
Jesus, Miranda. It's like you're the guy sometimes.
Uh-oh, gender role reversal.
So is that the thing? They're all kind of showcasing typically masculine.
Perhaps. Or
behaviors?
just, like, no. Or the opposite of what they typically are, maybe.
Mm.
Not necessarily, because no, Miranda's pretty, like, masculine in her, like, stereotype. I guess in the stereotype of being, like, good job and having our own house already and not needing to be, wanting to be independent. All those things, which is, like, attributed to men.
Mm-hmm.
You see? My hips don't pop. I'm a guy.
You're insane.
This isn't helping me find my inner goddess. This is making me find my inner humiliation.
and reach back.
This is
ladies,
also why I
reach
don't do
for the
classes
stars.
where instructors come and talk to you. I've like been in the classes, like workout classes with people where they don't talk to me until like they get to know me, and I'm good with that. And then we like tease each other. But if you're pointing me out, telling me what I'm doing wrong in the first class, hell nah. How dare you?
I was in a class once where you weren't allowed to leave until you could do a handstand. Like it was based on time, you know? So like whoever did the handstand longest would leave, and then they would do it again. Whoever did the handstand longest would leave, and then would do it
This
again.
was a class?
Yep. And it was horrible.
Yeah.
But one time I got not the last 5.
I think in any relationship, one person's the alpha dog, the one that's in charge. That's you. You don't want to share your water dish.
But I'm very free with the chew toys.
That you are.
So this is making Miranda question
Miranda
her
arrived home later to
femininity
an empty apartment.
because she doesn't want all these things. I've been there.
And
I feel like that has a lot to do with my like growing up in a religious home more so than society. But I mean, society doesn't help. But feeling like I'm supposed to be this feminine thing, I'm like, I don't meet this criteria. And maybe I'm doing this all wrong.
And who the hell do you think you are?
Your boss.
Samantha Jones, PR. No. I don't know when she will. Yeah, well, she's been busy. Yeah, you have the attitude, too. Oh, and FYI, your parties suck.
Well, the bad news is you're fired. The good news is now I can you.
Samantha discovered the only place
No
she and Matt
lawsuit
worked well
whatsoever.
together.
Everything is just fine.
Well, I lost my job today, but I had some good sex.
I got to the boss. We good, bruh. And I get to do a lawsuit. Where can I find a lawyer?
I was gonna make you dinner, and then this conference call went over like 2 hours. And I went to the market, and the recipe calls for extra virgin olive oil, and they only had virgin. And how the hell do I know the difference?
Been there.
They don't even cook,
Yep,
so
I'm
I just
relating to
scrapped
this
the whole
really
thing
hard.
and got the stuff in a jar, and I'm late.
Don't move, it's glass.
I can't. I can't do this.
Of course you can't. We'll order pizza. It's no big deal.
It's a big deal. I just spilled marinara
See, this
sauce
is why
all over
Steve is
myself,
the
and
good
you're
guy
here,
here.
you saw
Like,
that, and I dropped
he
it,
just
okay?
is easygoing. Tries. I mean, yes, is he kind of a slob? Does he need to get things together? Sure.
Crying on your shoulder. Jesus, I guess I really am a woman, huh?
You get those moments of like, yeah, you try to be like forward moving and like understanding that gender roles is a construct, all these things. And then you have scenes like that where like, I really am a woman because I'm crying. And you're like, and there's internalized misogyny.
Hey, where you going? What's your spin?
Just more cigarettes. That was the last night I saw Sean. I realized they could do whatever they wanted.
And then
but
she
deep
ran.
down, I was too old.
And you know he was scarred by that.
Yeah.
Not scarred, but he's gonna talk about the woman who was like could not handle.
She just left and never. She went out for cigarettes and never came back. Wow.
Okay, this is one of again, as I said before, this is one of those episodes that I'm like, oh no, cringe. It's not good. Yeah, this was one of the ones that I remember when I originally watched it. I think it was around the same time I was watching 30 Rock, because 30 Rock had that episode and said something very similar. Like, it's just a layover to Gay Town, essentially, and thinking like, wow, y'all really do not help this situation at all and will not allow for like this level of conversation. And yeah, I think this is definitely, again, one of those that you're like, it did not age well. And unfortunately, this viewpoint is still the same. We hear it still in the generation of like, they're just confused. They just don't know what they want. They are like being, they're so young and immature and trying these things out. And instead of allowing for like, no, but if we really look at the bigger picture of like being able to say, I guess it's kind of like the whole pansexual type of conversation of like being on a spectrum and falling in love with who you fall in love with. So you're falling in love with that person and not necessarily of that gender, which if his character, Sean's character, had said that instead of saying, I'm not gay, I think would have been a lot more reasonable. And it made sense. Like he wasn't ashamed of it, but of course she kind of like pressured him to such a point of him having to defend his masculinity essentially somehow. So yeah, that was the one that I was like, oh no, oh no. You kind of got it. There was no Oh, they did go to a club. He had hair. They went to hair. They didn't go to brunch, but they did go to brunch. I'm a liar. They did go to brunch. All right. You know, if there was a score from 1 to 10, which I switch it up every time, I'd give you a 6. I'll give you a 6.
Okay.
Because I also helped you here. I put you on a curve on that one.
You did.
Too.
You did help me out.
Because I also needed a warning with those uncomfortable ones. But yeah, that's the conversation. I wonder for the newer generations, like, and for you who are a new viewer, what did you think about this episode?
Well, it was a strange experience because it both felt incredibly dated, but also, yes, they still do that in things that we see. And it was also interesting because, you know, as a viewer, I assume you're meant to relate to Carrie and all the other characters, but in this case, Carrie. But it does feel like, to me, and this is very personal, not everybody feels this way, but if you're going to play a game of like spin the bottle, I would never be like, I'm not going to kiss a woman, even if I wasn't bisexual or gay. Like, if I was sitting down to play it and the rules had been like established, then I'd be like, okay. And the fact that she just left and was like,
I will
all
never
right,
speak
I'm an
to him
old
again.
fart, and like
that's who I am.
But I don't, and I would love like if anyone can write in, because I know people feel this way, and I can understand to an extent, but to me personally, like the fact that someone would be bisexual would not make me more insecure or jealous. I get that then it's more people that I have to be concerned about, in heavy quotes. But it wouldn't be like I'm suddenly more suspicious.
Right.
And we have talked about that before because there is a popular media trope that bisexual people are just way more sexual, which is not true. But there is that understanding of, oh, if anyone looks their way, they'll sleep with them, in very heavy sarcasm. But that was just kind of bizarre to me, I guess. I didn't really get it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely this like back and forth of going, her trying to be cool with it, but not being cool with it. This is very like conservative take to being like, they can do what they want. It's not for me. But then also being really judgmental and like being a part of that. And again, like from jump, I would not be playing spin the ball with strangers. Not whatever sexuality,
Right.
strangers, point blank. I'm like, nah, I'm good. Y'all have fun with this. But, you know, if he made her do it, that's very uncomfortable, and that's definitely on him. Yes, it is also portraying that people who are open about their sexuality are promiscuous and sharing. Like, it definitely leaned into this whole narrative that is really stereotypical and harmful for the gay community, point blank. But it's also very much like us versus them mentality. And it also is a generational us versus them mentality as well. So there's so many things on this level, like you just really wanted to play every insecurity that you had getting into your 30s, being single. Like it just, and I get it, because I was definitely single in my 30s, but the insecurities were not that real for me. I don't know. I think for those of people, and maybe this is that whole different generation where in the 2000s, they didn't outright speak up about their sexuality. majority of the people that I hang out with, I know their sexual orientation. So there's no confusion. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a thing, and that doesn't base anything. I'm also the very much that same type of person who's like, I don't go in thinking either we're dating because we met to date.
Right.
And at the beginning, and maybe this is the online dating thing, you know everything.
Right.
So like that kind of changes it up where you're not necessarily surprised unless they lie, and that happens too. And if you find out they're lying, you're out. I'm like, I'm out. So maybe that's a different type of like beginning of a relationship that they are talking about where it's not online dating. I'm trying to remember. I don't think they have any episodes about online dating.
Except
other than
in the
your
new.
old school, like in a newspaper.
Right.
Or a chat room.
Right. And I mean, I guess the thing is, like, I've actually been seeing a lot of conversations about this recently since we have Happy Pride Month.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. I have been seeing a lot of conversations about this recently, and it made me stop and think because I feel like Sean, in this case, he was very open about, maybe the like, I'm not gay was confusing in this context. But he was open about, and there's been conversations about people who didn't know exactly how they identified until they got older, until they did try things. Or they felt repressed in one way, and then it wasn't until they went to college, but feeling like maybe Sean feels bad for Carrie. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I had known then that that's what I was, and I was dating you, and I didn't realize that wasn't what I wanted.
Right. And
that can be like not a great feeling. And so I've just seen some really interesting conversations happening about that lately. Again, he was like,
point blank, like,
this is me.
Yeah, I think that's the other point of that. It's like her, not disgust, but like discontent in him being that open and free about it really bothered her. Really bothered her. She's like he's from Colorado. Like that. I'm like, well, how do you want him to say it? Like dejected in a quiet voice and ashamed? What do you want him to do? Hide it from you? Because you'd be more upset, right? When you meet the friends and they're like, yeah, I used to date him.
Exactly. And we've run into this in several episodes recently. She is a sex columnist.
Right.
Like I feel like she should, if she's not comfortable with it, okay.
Yes.
But I guess that's the flip coin of what I'm talking about. But then you remove yourself and be like, I'm sorry. I'm not comfortable with it. Maybe I'm going to have to think about what that says, but I'm not into it. And that's okay.
Right. And her level of disgust and like distrust in him was so high. So we've talked about this before with like people in relationships with trans people or people who are bisexual and feeling like they're in danger if they tell them.
Yes.
Like, or they'll be ashamed very quickly if they tell them the truth. So they do hide it, and then it becomes a bigger thing. Like all these things, and like they can't openly date, freely date, and trust the person they're dating, even though they really think they can, they would like to, but then it ends up bad. Like this is that kind of like that ground of like, this is a really dangerous scope, and you're using this as a comedy. You're using this as a plot line. I believe the writer of this episode is a gay man. Darren Star is attributed as the writer, who is a gay, openly gay man, as well as Jenny Briggs, and then of course Candace Bushnell, who is the writer of the book, author of the book. But like it feels like he might. I don't know if he did that on purpose. I don't know if he realized it, or if it was just the scope of the early 2000s and the way we saw bisexuality at that point in time. Because at the very least, like, and just like that, at least when they decided to do non-binary folk, they did treat them with a little more respect, not complete the respect that they deserved. Again, because they actually portrayed that character also as, I think Chaz, as oversexed, willing to have sex with anybody, didn't care if they were in relationships or not type of thing. That's a whole different conversation. I will say I haven't watched the newest season, but all of that to say is like, okay, I don't know if you mean to do this. I don't know if this is an underlying thought process for you, or if you really thought this was like an open conversation, so whatever, whatnot. But it's not a great look. Maybe we're just looking at it in a way that makes me defensive. Maybe because I do have friends who are bisexual and who are like trying just to live their life. I have like, I have come to the point as being, I guess, an elder millennial slash Gen X, like I'm on that line, a zillennial, I guess. And this is part of my conversation in college and trying to figure that out. And I didn't meet people who were bisexual. I met people who were gay, or they weren't openly or having that conversation of being that, because I don't think they felt that they could. If they were typically women, definitely not men, which to me was an interesting conversation in that self of like, they're just going through a period, quote unquote, and it's just, it's just kind of like the Katy Perry song of like, I Kissed the Girl. It became a fetishized idea of what it was. And that was a college thing as well. So I feel like that was just part of this. This seems like it feeds into that narrative, and it feels very, very like dangerous on the scope of where we are today, obviously with queer laws. This is 24 years later. We're watching this 24 years later. So the fact that this narrative is still being spread is the concern, honestly.
Yeah, and I think you brought up several points that we should maybe come back and talk about later, which is, not feeling safe sharing your gender identity. So there can be reasons to hide. And I also think I had this conversation with my mom this weekend. My goodness, if this was a different show, I would go into the drama that is happening at her church. But one of the thing revolves around a lot of LGBTQ plus stuff, which is happening in a lot of churches. And we've talked about that in our religious mini-series that we did. But one thing she said at one point was like, and it was a gay guy that said that. And I was like, just because a gay guy said that, we're still people who have biases and can make mistakes and can be wrong. We've talked before about within the queer community, there is unfortunately there can be a lot of judgment and criticism. And that's sort of been the history with bisexuality, with transgender, and having people judge that within the queer community. So, I think our audience doesn't need the reminder, but if anyone does, just because someone's queer and they make a queer thing doesn't mean it's without something we shouldn't look at and be like, okay, wait.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I just crossed upon an Asian man from Georgia that does a Republican conservative talk show. I was like, but why?
I mean, it's true for like any community, right? I always say that about feminism is like, it's not a monolith.
Right.
And this is interesting to me because this was happening during like the third wave.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of that in the third wave was a very addressing gender stuff, but still being pretty gendered and doing it.
Right. As we saw, like literally Miranda's whole thing was, I'm not girly enough. Well, I guess I am girly because it went into like being like, okay, you can be this and like still be a woman. That's great. And then she goes, no, now I really am. Look at me cry. And I'm like, oh, well, you broke that. So never mind.
Yeah. It was an interesting time where they were like, let's be feminine, but not the bad, weak parts. But in doing so, it's saying that being feminine is still worse.
Right.
But there are things to criticize about how we do that in media, whereas women always crying. But women do cry is like a complicated mess.
that level, but like it's interesting to see it written. And again, this is 2000s. 2000s were a lot of great things. It opened up a lot of like conversations, but then like again, like it's not too much from today, too much different from today. Which is probably why we're more frustrated and I'm more concerned than anything else. Like, this is almost the same and this is the bad, but this was part of the foundation that why we can't break it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But all right, well, we have to get through these dated episodes to get the whole of Sex and the City, but we're always going to have an honest conversation about it. Let us know what you think. And again, we are trying to pick a better episode where it's not so thick with this type of down conversation, I guess, for you, a listener, to join us very, very soon. If you are interested, we're going to have a random drawing, as we did last time, for you to join in and watch an episode with us and talk about it with us. You don't have to be a Sex and the City expert. No need to preview beforehand. Just come and enjoy and have a conversation with us.
Yeah. And our super producer, Christina, is amazing. She walks you through the whole process. If you got like a internet connection and a computer or something to record on, you're good. So yeah. And for the people who entered last time and didn't get it, if you would like to re-enter, please do. But if you're like, nah, I'm good, that's all right.
Worries.
But yes, if you would like to re-enter, please do. If you would like to enter the first time, please do. You can email us at stuffmediamomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at momstuffpodcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff One Never Told You. We have a YouTube, a TeePublic store, and a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer, Christina, our executive producer, Maya, and our contributor, Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.